Where are you going? English? I have to go quick because Beatrice is waiting on me. Oh my gosh, that might No, just walk slow.
You can, but like, I just don't have it in the grade book. So I can't grade it.
Yeah. But okay. Mr. Townsend, do we have to turn in any of the books? Or did you just
Part 2 was collected like last week or something.
Oh, that was the one where
It was like the first AMI day, yeah.
What about the first?
I just haven't collected it yet.
Okay, sweet.
If I ask y'all to turn in like 5 things now, I don't have time to check them, grade them, and get them back to you, and to me that's a different issue. So like I just slow trickle asking for it.
You should have them.
I usually would. No, you gotta keep it in pristine order. Although I had like some years off. We said a little mini quiz.
So what now?
Mini quiz.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, same.
That's fine. Don't get all
Yes. What is it turning?
The little
Oh, some
packets.
Okay.
Little packets.
Yes.
All of them. That is pretty funny.
That's it.
It is a one night.
You ready for that?
Good. So you want it? What is this? It's been a second since we did this last year.
Oh, I looked at it. We haven't made what's this class, right? We're supposed to turn in. That's it? Not part one?
Correct. Part one is not been part two.
Good? Yeah, is this the same one? I think so. I think so.
It was with three.
And you plug in the things to get your records. Do you just plug in the
Either something or it's gonna be a full house.
What number the seating section? Oh,
How'd you do about the Ken test?
I feel pretty confident on the MCU. And then there were like on two of the homes after two, I think I'd be pretty good, but there's one that I just kind of had
Okay, first up, I need your FRQ packet, 4 FRQs. If you did not turn that into Google Classroom already, please make sure your name's on it. I'm turning it into the basket. And then we have our 2-question mini quiz that I told you about. So that is no calculator, so clear your desk off.
You did on that. I could have done that for better, I think. 13 years old. For better, I had a whole week and to just. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you don't really want to say.
Okay, so goal question comes straight through your nose. So I'm trying to give you something to lean on a bit if you're willing to look that over. Bless you. So exactly the same as in your notes. Now, this time they're only worth 2 points. So no partial credit here. If you forget something or you plug a number in the wrong way, then you lose the point. So today's is only 2 points. I'm going to give you a similar one. Next class, that'll be 4 points. But we'll talk about that later. And then make sure I got the FRQ packets too. If you didn't put that in Google Classroom. Again, please look it over, double check it the best you can, since there's no partial credit. No, you don't have to do any simplification of the arithmetic. And as soon as I get that, today's handout was a copy of the test review, which I technically have already asked you to look at. So you may have already made a copy of it yourself at home, and that's okay. It's just another copy. So we're going to be working off of that today. So while you wait for everyone to have a few minutes here, you can go ahead and pick up wherever you left off the first time you did it. Stay quiet for people quizzing, please. Shouldn't need much longer.
Do you want us to solve this one all the way down?
You need to go further than that, but you don't have to do the arithmetic.
Okay.
But you need to at least, you need to finish the calculus part. Again, if you're already finished, you can go ahead and start looking at the review, especially a few questions on the back. Because you probably didn't get to those the first time I asked you to look at it. Okay, if you're still working on that, that is fine, but you need to finish it up here in a moment and turn it in. The rest of us, let's go ahead and move on. So first up, I need to let you guys know that if you're interested, there is a math competition coming up. The ACTM used to be a much bigger math competition several years ago, but COVID has kind of messed some of that stuff up. But if you're interested in participating in that, it is March 3rd or March 4th. I don't remember the date, but it's a Saturday morning. Usually there's not many calculus students that participate because, or at least AB students, because if you want to do it, you also compete against BC students, so they have a little bit more calculus under their belt. But you're certainly welcome to if you want to. There is a $5 fee and there is a deadline. That's not the high school making money off you, that's what the university charges us. But if you're interested, make sure that you let me know between now and the end of next week. And I have to have your $5 before I can put your name down officially. But if you're interested in doing that, I want you to know that that is available. So, any questions about that? Yeah.
What type of math is it? Is it like NCT math, or is it?
It's, well, it's in the course that you're in, so it'd be calculus math. There's also like Algebra 1, Geometry, but they wouldn't let you do those because you're not in those courses, so that wouldn't be fair. But it is hard. Again, calculus, there's not too many AB students that participate, but just a few years ago we had a student in pre-cal. If you place well enough at regional, you get invited to go on to state. And of course, even if you do well enough to get invited, or you get top 3 or honorable mention, all that stuff looks good on applying to colleges, scholarships. But a few years ago, somebody in pre-cal won the entire state, so they had the best state one. So it's not impossible, but it is pretty difficult, and you do have to spend some time outside of class preparing if you want to be competitive. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that is an option for you if you're interested. But I need to know by next week your name and your $5 before I can get you down. Okay, what I would like to do is on this review, FRQ2 was the one that on the front page here we've got FRQ 1, 2, and 3. FRQ2 was the one that my last class said that they felt was the hardest, just kind of eyeballing it, and I actually already have 1 and 3 worked out on my website, so I know that some of you may have already utilized that. So I feel like 2 would be a good one for us to kind of just use as a springboard to start discussion. And then I'll give you some time to work through this. So our original plan for this next test was this Friday. With the AMI, we tried to bend a little bit. So we will push that back one day, which makes it next Tuesday. Your test is, I'd say that by far the number 1 topic is going to be U substitution. So there's like 4, 5, or 6 U substitution questions, which is why I'm trying to push y'all early to put in an effort. But it also has questions like the last quiz. So on Thursday, I will pass back that quiz to you in class for you to look over, and you can see which ones you missed, and we'll go over some of the most missed ones, give you some strategies on like what to maybe try that you didn't try the first time. But that is the plan for that. Last time I saw you guys, I got really rushed at the end, but I do want to make sure that you know we don't have a final exam this semester, so we don't have a replacement grade at the end of the semester like we did first semester, but we do offer 1 replacement grade, and it's with the next one. The reason why we allow it on this one is because your next one is over all of Chapter 5, and so it could replace your 5.1, 5.4 quiz if it ends up being higher. So only if it helps you, not if it hurts you. You still have to take your Chapter 5 grade. You can't just say I made 100 on the last one. The next one has some different stuff on it. But I'd like y'all to know that ahead of time, because if you were not happy with your last quiz, you know, I tried to warn you that it was a tough one, but if you're not happy with that, you've got one chance to override it and make it go away. So but you got to buckle down if that's the case. Any questions about that? Okay, then let's look at FRQ2, and then I will give you a little bit more flexibility on where you go. Let you work at your own pace. So this one says, a particle moves along the x-axis so that its velocity for any time t between 0 and 16 is given by e to the 2 sine of t minus 1. Now first off, at the very top of this it says calculator is allowed for questions 1 and 2. So we can pull out a calculator and use this if we need to. So what this is saying, you want to visualize it. Basically you've got a horizontal line, x-axis. Somewhere on here there's a particle, and for any time t, we know what the velocity is. So basically this particle is just moving back and forth along this horizontal line. Okay, what else did they give us in the directions? That's some useful information here.
Time t particle at the origin.
Okay, so what's it mean to be at the origin?
Zero.
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 Is that zero what?
Zero. Zero.
Okay. 0, 0. So part A. During what time is the particle moving to the left? All right, so first off, how do we know when the particle is moving to the left? Okay, so when velocity is negative, that's how you're supposed to know it's moving to the left. If it's positive, it's moving to the right. So this is already like my justification. I don't know what the numbers are yet, but I know it's going to the left when this is happening. How can I find out when this is negative? All right, that would definitely be the most efficient way. So in your calculator, go ahead and plug that in, please. Because most of the rest of this question is just knowing how to use a calculator. So you need to make sure that you remember all this stuff. Or that you know it if your Algebra 2 teacher didn't show you. Alright, now there's a couple things that could lead us the wrong direction. The first is, you do need to be in radian mode. If your calculator is in degree mode, your calculator usually tries to compensate and graph what it thinks you want, but it doesn't always do a good job. You need to be in radian mode. Mode, option number 3. We are always in radian mode. And then 2, I graphed this. And this is not the most useful graph. What's wrong with my graph that the calculator's given to me?
You needed to go to 16 on the x-axis, 0 to 16.
Okay, so how can I do that?
Go to the window.
Okay, good. You said 0, 2. So you at least need to make it go further to the right, out to 16. But we also don't care about this negative stuff. So that's optional, but you probably want to change it 0 to 16 so that you're only looking at the important stuff. So, can you see where velocity is negative now?
Yes.
Where it's below the x-axis. And notice, if you don't change your window settings and you only look negative 10 to 10 like you normally do, you're definitely not going to see this one out here. This one's almost a little tricky. It's below the x-axis over here. So the last part that we need for this is to figure out when is it negative. So, I know sometimes you guys just use trace and you get your cursor kind of close to it, and that's fine sometimes for multiple choice if that's close enough to just give you down to one option, but we need to get within 3 decimal places. The AP exam expects you to be within 3 decimal places accurate, and this is not exactly where y equals 0. So if you do not remember this, second trace and then calculate 0. It'll ask for a left bound, which means make sure your cursor is to the left of your 0 before you hit enter. Then it will ask for right bound, so move your cursor to the right before you hit enter. And depending on how old your calculator is, it may put this in here, these like little windows, but it's basically showing you like, hey, I'm about to find this one that's trapped between these two values. Hit enter to skip guess, and then here's where the first one starts, at about 3.142.
Could you just put pi?
142. Are you sure that it's pi?
That's what it says on the.
Well, yeah, but do you know that because you looked at the answers? It says,
I mean, it is pretty much pi, right?
It is pi though, because sine of pi is 0, and 2 times 0 is 0, and e to the pi is, I mean, e to the 0 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0.
yes, I'm aware that it is exactly pi, but what I'm saying is, if it depends on why you're saying that. If you're saying that because you looked at the answers, then no, I wouldn't run the risk. They accept 3 decimal places, so why say, oh, I think that's pi, and then toss a coin and hope that you're right? Like, don't run that risk. If you understand why it's pi by what you were saying, and you prefer to say pi, then I guess you can, but okay, so I'm just going to stick with the decimals though. So left bound, hit enter, right bound, hit enter. First time it needs to be to the left of the x-intercept, to the right it needs to be to the right. Enter, and then your calculator does the work of bouncing back and forth. And then this one looks kind of familiar too. That's probably going to be 2 pi. And that just looked like 3.14 times 2. But again, I'm not 100% sure without doing more work, and I'm not trying to do more work than I need to. I'm just trying to get the answer and move on. 6.283. Okay, that's not the only time the velocity is negative though. It's also negative here, so you've got to do the same thing again. So you don't need to do it all of these. I will do them for you, but you should do at least once to make sure that you're getting the same values as me. Looks like velocity starts being 0 at about 9.425. And then it stays negative till here. Which is about 12.566. And if you never change your window settings, then you are not going to see this. You're going to know that it's negative, and then you're not going to see all this stuff. But because I changed it to 16, I can see how much further it goes out, and I can see this tiny little bit. This is almost, I'd argue this is almost unfair, but I think this is an actual FRQ that was asked once. So it looks like one more time. The last one starts at 15.708. 708. And then it stays below until when? 16.
Why is that? Oh, just because it's your window?
Well, the question says we only care about 0 to 16, and it's still negative when you get to 16. So it might be, I don't know, it might still be negative at 16.1, but this question specifically said we only care about 0 to 16, so your answer shouldn't go past 16. So here's my answers, and there's my justification, because that's where velocity is negative. Calculator's doing 99% of the work for you, but you need to know how to calculate that. You need to know how to change your window settings. You need to know that your calculator needs to be in radian mode because you've got a trig function. And maybe most importantly, you have to know what it means to be going to the left. Velocity's negative is going left or down, depending on the question. Velocity's positive is going right or up, depending on the question. Okay, anything else about part A y'all want to ask?
When you got a negative value,
Well, the question's only defined between 0 and 16, so you shouldn't include anything negative. Now, I don't see anything negative because of my window settings, but yeah, if you didn't change your window settings and you left this -10, you need to be careful not to include any of this. This has nothing to do with what they're asking. Okay, then part B, I feel like this one's getting pretty repetitive now, but find the total distance traveled from 0 to 4. How would we do that?
Put it inside the absolute value.
Okay, put what inside the absolute value? What function?
V velocity.
Velocity. Okay, and then what else?
Integral from 0 to 4.
Okay, so if you integrate velocity, that gives you the change in position. Sometimes this guy's going to the right, which would add to your distance, but sometimes he's going to the left, which would subtract from your distance. And that's why we wanted these absolute value signs to make sure whether it's going right or left, it's adding to your total distance, and 0 to 4. But your calculator can do that for you. So all you have to do is know, well, first, as soon as you see total distance, the red flag of absolute value sign needs to go up. But then you also have to understand why integrating velocity gives you the change in position. It's always the change in the function lower. If you integrate acceleration, it gives you the change in velocity. If you were to integrate velocity, it gives you the change in position. So, absolute value signs are like in 3 different places, so make sure you know at least one of them. I just go to the catalog and it's the top option. Okay, let me ask you this question to make sure y'all are okay. I'm gonna hit enter here and get the answer, and this is correct. But why does this work? Shouldn't my question have t's in it and I'm putting in x's?
Because it's just a variable.
Right, as long as you're consistent. You can put x here as long as you put dx here. If you want to actually type in t here, just make sure you do dt there. Just be consistent. I just use x because this button gives you x instantly. But if you'd rather do alpha 4 to get t, as long as you put it in both places, it'll be fine. Now, if you only put it in one of the two, your question is going to work something different, and it's going to give you an answer that's not correct. But about 10.542. So another question where the calculator is doing all of the tough part for you, but you have to understand conceptually why the calculus is doing that for us, or at least that it is. You guys okay with that? I go with part B? Okay. Part C. Is there any time 0 to 16 at which the particle returns to the origin? So it starts at the origin, and then they're asking when does it return to the origin and be able to explain.
Could you graph the s of t function? And
Okay, but I don't have S of t. Okay, so we could say if I integrated velocity, that would give me the position. Here's my concern though. Well, can you integrate that by hand? Can you integrate this? No, not even with U substitution does that one work by hand. Some things just don't work by hand. So that means you're going to use the calculator. My concern is you go to your calculator, it doesn't do that type of integration. You have to have the bounds. So I'll go ahead and type it in. So we got to come up with some bounds. Well, where are we starting?
0. And 16.
That's what I want to ask y'all.
Yeah.
16?
Yes.
16's not right.
It's testing, isn't it?
If you put 16 here, then you're basically asking your calculator, okay, I know it started at the origin. This is keeping up with how the position has changed over that time. So if I hit enter to this, it's going to tell me where it is at time 16. How does that help me know if it ever was at the origin again?
Would you make 0 the top bound?
Mm-mm. You need it to be X because it might be at 1 second or 1.2 seconds. This has to change. Now, we don't want to put it in here. If you put X in here, it doesn't have anything to work. We need to, I should have done this. Now I got to type it all in again. 0 to X. If you do 16, it's only figuring out where it is at time 16. That doesn't help you figure out if it ever crossed.
So like, how does your calculator function like how does it know to find where it hits the origin if you put X?
Okay, it doesn't. But what it's going to do, if I can ever type it in correctly, there we go. So what it does when it graphs something, like even a real basic one, let's just do 2x. I'll just have it graph this one and not this one. When it graphs 2x, what it's doing is it's plugging in like x equals 5, gets a y value, plots it. X equals 2, finds a y value, plots it. X equals -3, plugs it in, plots it. And it just does that like hundreds, if not thousands of times, and then it makes it look like a line. So when we do this, if I have it graph it now, what it's going to do is it's going to be slow, but it's going to plug in 0 for x, and it's going to get 0, because 0 to 0 is going to be 0. It's going to plot the point. And then it's going to move over just a little bit, plug that value in for x, compute all of this, find the y value, and replot that. Plug that in, increase x a little bit, do it again and again and again, and that's tough for your calculator to do. Let me change my windows back. I want 0 to 16. So it struggles, but it's doing it's basically computing thousands of those integrals. When x is 0, when x is 1, when x is 2, when x is 3. And notice it's still thinking. What are we looking for, by the way?
It returns to the origin.
Okay, well, what does that look like on the graph, though? Like, is this the origin?
No. 0, 0.
Well, it's never going to be back here, right? It's moving to the right. Yeah.
What if you on like the area on the top and the area on the bottom are equal?
No, because we're integrating velocity, so this visual represents the position.
When we get a negative number, a negative y value.
Close.
When the y equals 0.
Right. If it's back to here, the position, this is like the position. So if the position ever gets back to 0, then it's back at the origin. Because remember, your particle is really just going back and forth on a horizontal line. We're visualizing how far away it is. Okay? And this is going to take a while. We gave up last period. It's thinking about it. But at some point, you need to say, he never comes back down. It never returns to the x-axis. In our justification, we need to say that somehow. You can't say because it doesn't return to the x-axis. What are you talking about? No one can even assume that, even if they think that you're correct.
Y does not equal 0.
Y does not equal 0?
S15 never equals 0 after.
I mean, you can say that if you want to, but what's Y? I've never talked about Y. They didn't say anything about Y.
Like the position table.
Okay, so you could say the position is, well, it was always positive, right? We were visualizing position because we were integrating velocity. And it was always positive. And if it's always positive, it was never back to 0. Now, you kind of should have known this answer already, I think. It wouldn't have been a good justification, but let's say I suspect that this is probably 1 point and this was probably 1 point. I'm really tired of typing this in, but when we did this earlier, the first time we graphed this, we had a very good visual of how to answer this last part. This is velocity, so we know when it's moving right and left, correct? So at time 0, it's at the origin. And then what does this stuff mean?
It's going.
The speed is increasing.
That's like how far it's traveling.
Is velocity positive or negative up here?
Positive.
So if you're at the origin and then velocity is positive, you're moving to the,
Right.
so you're moving to the right for a while, and then do you see you're moving to the left some?
Yeah.
But you see how this is much bigger than this? So you move to the right a lot, and then a little bit to the left, and then a lot to the right, and a little bit to the left, and a lot to the right, and a little bit to the left.
And all that area underneath, right, is that distance?
Yeah, so if you wanted to think of it as area under the curve, like someone had said a minute ago, basically this is way bigger than this. But just your justification would need to match. So, yes, David.
In justification, could you put like the area of those 3 like humps above the x-axis like is greater than the 3 sections below?
Maybe. It depends on how you say that. If you write the area of the 3 humps above the x-axis are bigger than the...
Well, no, like I'm talking about like using it.
Y'all do that kind of stuff, huh? But yes, if you said this guy represents velocity, so how could we with math symbols talk about the area under this curve?
The integral from 0 to pi.
Okay, you could do that, sure. Yeah. You could say the integral of 0 to pi of v of t. I just feel like you're getting really long-winded. Like you're going to have to like say the whole thing.
Yeah.
You can't just say it for like this hump and that hump. You have to explain it all the way through 0 through 16. So if you want to say the area from 0 to pi is greater than the area from pi to 2 pi, and this and that and this and that, then sure, that would be fine. It's a whole lot easier just to say the position is always greater than 0 from graphing it. But I like to pull up that original graph because if you think about this as going to the right a lot and a little bit to the left, it's never returning to the back to where it started. It's moving further and further to the right over time. And you can get your calculator to do that by integrating like you guys said so that you can see the position function, but it's slow because the way it computes that is it's plugging in one number for x, calculating that integral, plotting a point, increasing x a little bit, doing it again, and that integration is not easy for it to do. It's a lot of computational power, so it's possible, but okay, please make sure that on this one you guys jot down which parts you may not have thought of or the justifications that would be helpful. Obviously our FRQ probably is not going to be exactly like that, but total distance comes up on at least 2 of these. When is something moving right or left comes up in at least 2 of these. Thinking about position and when's it return to the origin, that's pretty common. So some of those parts could show up on our next test, even if it doesn't look like that. Okay, anything I want to add to that? before I push this away. Again, last period they said this one they thought was the hardest. I don't really feel like these, like, if you're proficient with your calculator, I don't feel like there's that much stuff that y'all have to know to be able to do this question. Like, your calculator is doing all the hard stuff for you. So, okay, so I don't know if I vocalized this or not because I said it like 3 times in my last class, but today we had the mini quiz over U substitution. If you just forgot about it, then please make sure that you guys come up with some new technique. Put an alarm in your phone to go off during advisory or something to look over that stuff. As we get closer to the AP exam, I will do lots of small one skill type question quizzes to help you all kind of chunk it into parts and focus on the more important stuff. So that is a thing that you need to do. It's really meant to help you, but if you don't think to look that stuff over, then it does add up and it's going to penalize your grade and not help your grade. But next class, I'm going to give you 2 more U substitution questions. Once again, I'm even telling you where the questions are coming from. So if you feel like you're still struggling with U substitution, that's okay, but you got to get there. The questions will come from part 1 of number 82. That was the book assignment. It was like 9 questions. So I'm going to pick 2 of those, and it will be the exact same 2 questions. So if you're good with U substitution, you don't even need to look back at that. But if you're concerned that you're making some mistakes or forgetting plus C or forgetting to use the bounds and the integrate or whatever, make sure you scan those questions over. And then on Thursday, I will count it for 4 points instead of 2 points. So that'll be worth double what today says.
Is the chapter 5, is that going to be like a quiz or a test?
Well, what's the difference?
Oh, is there no difference?
I mean, there is a difference, but I don't think y'all see the difference.
Oh.
Quiz is usually less points and less material. Tests are often more points and more material.
Is this going to be more points than...
This one will be 50 points again, but since it can replace the first one, for some people it kind of counts 100.
Yeah.
If it's a higher score, it counts as 100. If it's lower, it counts as 50. So, and I would call this one a test because it's all of chapter 5 stuff. Some of the question types from the last one will be on there again. They're also on the review, like on the back here, and I will give you guys a chance to see your quizzes next class, but also U substitution.
Is it going to have about like the same number of questions though?
Yeah, it'd be about the same length. Yeah. Okay. All right, then what I'd like you to do is to kind of pick up wherever you left off, because again, I did ask you to work, I asked for at least 30 minutes when I saw you guys on the AMI, so you should have tried a few of these questions, but the FRQ 1 and 3 would probably be good ones to do first, unless you're just burnt out on those, I guess. But then the back has you practice finding some area, which is just integration, integrating. A couple of those are U substitution, a couple are calculator. Remind you about average value, which we talked about before this unit. Left Riemann sums, trapezoidal sums, second fundamental theorem of calculus, some stuff that we have talked about before. So all of you are going to be at slightly different places on that, and that is okay, but this will be the majority of the rest of the class time that I can give you to work on that. So please go ahead and start, and I will come around and help out here in a bit.
My calculator can't put an integral in whenever I try to graph. So like usually isn't it alpha and then this?
Mm-hmm.
It just gives you that.
You need to update your calculator.
Okay.
The operating to you want me to do it?
Yes, please.
How'd you get it here?
I just didn't turn it off and turn it on.
Yeah, but how did you type it in here?
Oh, it works right here.
Wait, that's what I just did.
But then it doesn't work on here.
You can see Dylan and Sam. How was your snow day?
It goes to that.
Okay, I don't know if that'll be the operating system, but we can update it.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Let me help. Now, when you get your answer, you get the derivative of it. And the derivative of what you think the answer is doesn't actually hit you up.
Who is this? My brother.
Oh, wow, that's really good. Good hair.
I was smart. If I had to do a block during that, I would I don't know if it's better. It's better, I think in some ways, but equally worse in another ways. I would say, if you came back as sophomores. I have a question.
Okay.
How do you put a bound,
No idea.
I'm sure you do it, it literally has questions, like, practice problems, it's insane.
Okay. But if you don't know how to use it, it doesn't help me. If I was you, I would practice with these and then go home and figure out how to do the same thing on that. But you're gonna need a separate sheet of paper.
This is too Thursday.
You should have tried all of it by Thursday.
And I do have a question. When it says like area bounded by the x-axis, how would you do that?
Well,
Because this,
that's actually just kind of assumed most of the time, but is it x,
so you don't have to like change anything.
it's x cubed, right?
Uh-huh.
And then it's x-axis, this guy, and what else?
X equals -2 and x equals 4.
X equals -2 and x equals 4. So they're asking you to find that area.
Okay.
But you're still just integrating this function
With those boundaries.
with those bounds. It's just that sometimes we don't tell you all the bounds, like you'll see in the other question. But it's always the area that's trapped between the x-axis. So,
And then what happens when it says like y equals 0?
that's the same thing, y equals 0 is the
Oh,
x-axis.
is the x-axis. So
Yeah, but see, like this one doesn't tell you -2 to 4. So you need to think about where does this graph intersect that graph. It's like -2 to 2, but you need to think about where they intersect to figure out the bounds.
Thank you.
Yeah, I woke up this morning, it was really hard, and so it's like 3 or 4 hours. For seniors, you get 1.7. Yeah, maybe I want to do like a plus. You got same thing, yeah. You have
No.
The,
I said when EFT is negative and goes positive.
could I just say, changes, put
Writing, like writing a lot of things. Like good. Girl, she'll need to get started. The second one I'm talking to. Once the tape in several minutes, y'all haven't done anything. And you're headed the wrong way.
Okay, no.
You just.
On that one, you have to
Okay.
check the- I mean, you can do it by hand in theory, but it's such a pain. And then you can do it. That one I think was the word for it. I think that's one.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yes. There's multiple choice calculator and calculator that are
I think it's just 4.
There will be some calculator questions where calculators that help you, some calculator questions that are needed, and some calculator questions.
You have to do the
Best
levels.
people to do that.
Stress levels.
Yeah, always use calculators.
Like all of it.
We actually try
Huh?
Oh, I did want to say this about FRQ3 too. I know you guys can see this in the video, but for this question type, and you guys are welcome to ask other stuff later, but this is just too useful to not approach it this way. But on FRQ3, it gives you a statement like this, and this is a very common question type, where at some point in this, you're going to need to know something about the derivative and or the second derivative. But if you write it right under the one that they gave to you, then you can think of it like an equation. I'm taking the derivative of this side, so take the derivative of this side. What's the derivative of all this though? Not f prime of t. It's no longer t. F of x. That's the second fundamental theorem of calculus. If this is a constant and you're taking the derivative of this, you get to just plug this in and do chain rule. And then if I'm taking the derivative of this side, take the derivative of that side. So if you ever need to know anything about g prime, it's just the same thing as regular f of x. And if you need to know anything about g double prime, it's the same as the derivative or slope of f. Because they only give you the graph of f in that one. So if you don't write these three down stacked on top of each other, and you're mentally trying to think about this and what it's equal to, I don't know. Good luck to you, because I can't do that. It's too much. Always do that, and then that will make it quite a bit easier.
What? I did all of the one. Yeah, but I am.
Hey Jeff, did you get any prank calls?
I got several prank calls.
Oh, good.
It was bad. I couldn't sleep at night, honestly.
I tried to tell him not to.
Yeah. We just got such a mean classroom. There was a few prank calls.
Oh, because his phone number, he joined it. Okay, now I got that, yeah.
Wait.
Because on the Google Meet, he joined with his phone number.
Oh.
I can give you his phone number if you don't want it.
Alright, I'll come around and help in just a second. I need to finish this real quick.
Yeah, 5 is nice.
Actually, I'll try that, because you're gonna, you don't wanna listen. No, I'm doing exactly what you're doing.
Oh,
Should do that later, it's already late.
trapezoid, trapezoid area is base 1 plus base 2 times height, and then times by half, right?
So, yeah, you have
It's like a triangle, but you have to add bigger.
Okay. So
Is,
I think it's negative 3, but that doesn't kind of make sense.
Well, since it's an absolute minimum, min or max, to me that's extreme value theorem. So we should be testing the endpoints, -2 and 4, and then also anywhere where it could be switching like 3. So I would try plugging in -2 into this, you're gonna have to calculate that area. And now it's kinda awkward because you're going 1 to -2, so you're going right to left.
Yes.
Calculate 1 to 4, so you're gonna have to split that up and find all the area parts.
This is like the plus.
And you don't do it 1 to 3, everything's small, so it's gonna be your small.
Well, to be fair, it's not hard.
I don't know, they didn't ever send out talking points.
Okay, I wondered if something happened, we all heard, hey, they're getting ready,
Well, I send them out like as soon as I get them, it's like weeks after. And I would think my other thing is that's what they're gonna do, but I just
Oh, they're just talking about it, like you're gonna do plus C. So then you just, the whole thing, just.
So that you don't subtract it.
Yeah, you just add plus C after you take that.
When we don't do, when we don't do the I think you're right.
Oh, I've got
Probably not even, because most of the other sections are first.
Yes. I just put it in one. You said that you see that little curvy line? No? You need to make
I need to rememorize my numbers. What seals are there? Isn't that just painful?
I don't know, I mean, I think it's good. You know, it's very good.
It's basically a math education.
Hey, have you done 6?
So if you think about it, like, this is -2, it comes to
What if it's
like,
not?
what? Differentials. Do you know who you're talking to?
Okay. This is how we do it. So
Yo, what I thought when they meant prank call is that people would prank call you trying to get your mom to change it to AMI or something. I thought it had something. Honestly, that might be the strat.
Prank call me, so my mom
Yeah,
changes
do
it
that.
to AMI.
Yo, Jack, please. So tell your mom to catch up.
Well, it might be different enough, I don't
But so did she know? Like, when did she know?
Okay, you wanna come, Miss Nicely, you wanna come look at this? Cause I don't know if y'all can pull data from school status or not, but if you do school status, you can just do the assessment over
I
here.
don't think it'll let you pull it as a report.
Now, I don't know about that, but like if you click
Yeah,
one,
because that's where, over here,
it'll show you a bunch of kids at once.
You gotta read the question.
And then the other issue I have with this is there's usually a good delay between them taking the test and them showing up in here, and I don't know, is yours is gonna be better than that?
she just pulled one from the portal today.
But the one thing I do like about this one
Mhm.
is I can like group them by percentile.
Oh, it does let you group them?
Well, I mean, you can sort it by any of this stuff. I can sort
Okay.
high to low with
Okay, well,
math
cool,
and
then maybe we don't need to mess with that.
Well, I don't
then.
know. I'm just saying, like, I would explore that before I spent too much time, just in case.
She went on the portal and pulled it off today, so it probably has whatever the latest ones are updated.
This one, December 1st.
Is that the last one?
Hey, has there been an ACT since December 1st?
Has anybody taken an ACT since December 1st?
Wasn't there one on December 26th?
Was there?
I don't know. The 26th?
Oh, my bad.
26. Oh, wait, yeah.
I did.
Oh, for this upcoming one, you have to sign up.
Yeah, maybe.
But it might, I'm just saying, it might be easier for you to get the information from
I
that.
know, but I can't download it. I don't think it'll let me download it as a, see if it, with that file, see if it'll let me save it as an Excel.
Look, these 3 dots, download.
Yeah, it got an Excel. Oh, CSV will work. I can do CSV because I can convert it.
Yeah, but do you have access to all the kids? Because I can only see my kids I have.
Yeah, I do. Yep. Or it should anyway. Okay, so I was trying to see if there was any ACT.
Oh, I said it will.
Okay, so
And then, I said one.
Yeah.
February 11th.
Looks like this.
That'll work.
You gotta make the columns
Yeah,
wider.
but that would
All I
work
know is
though.
I said one of them
That might be
stays.
And
easier.
that,
I don't know.
maybe what she sent me. I'll have to compare it and see. Okay, so look, I don't see,
Yeah, it was a week.
maybe that's the first one.
That's upcoming ones.
Yeah.
We looked over anything over 7.
I don't show past ones though.
Taking notes.
It doesn't at all?
I don't know. I bet that's the most recent one. But I am telling you that there's a delay. But then also look, it's
Oh,
gonna
look,
show
right
like
here.
all of the
Look.
scores.
Yeah.
December 10th was that one. Does that say December 10th? That doesn't say December 10th.
See, okay, yeah, right here. December 1st.
12/1, yeah. Cause see, look, that this says.
But is there a December 1st?
And these are from the national side.
Why does this say the 1st?
I don't know.
That's a separate issue. But also notice it's reporting kids multiple times that they've taken it.
Because they've
multiple
taken it,
times.
well, so that, like, we look and see, that's her highest is here, so that's probably gonna be the one she reports.
Yeah. Well, you can also have this instead of ACT. You could do max score.
And it'll do it. That's cool, I didn't know it would
But
do
yeah,
that.
that's the only way I ever look at it. Because I like, since I can just sort it real quick and I can see my highest and my lowest. So,
Yeah, I should
But
have all.
maybe that can help some of that.
Yeah, I should have all, but she just went on the portal. If I do max scores, yeah, it looks like I have all. Yeah, I should have, but I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna quit begging you, I promise.
Oh no, you're fine. I'm just, if it's not you, it's them.
I haven't talked to Miss Lively yet about what she said about campus tax.
It's just like whenever you bought it, like they put the new operating system on the side, and then like they continue to upgrade it, but until you connect it to your computer and upgrade it, like it doesn't get the new stuff.
Oh, okay.
And that usually doesn't matter, like,
What's your lowest section?
you know, if you go get the new update every time it comes out, like you're not even gonna notice what's different. But you probably have never updated it, so like some stuff like that is just, they added it after you bought it. English is like. I can't even see it. You gotta figure out where those things would appear. So, x-axis is from 1 to 0. 0 for y. Solve that.
How smart is all this?
Now what about three?
You're gonna
Yeah.
So there's your. Sometimes they told you, sometimes they thought it where they would put.
Got it. Wait, awesome.
What did we get? I just wanted to tell you how to find out what it's changed. Can you please do something? I just think I'm And it's equal to an actual 1 6.
So like this one, they tell you it's from 1 to 4, right? And then these, you gotta put the dot in the part.
Oh, let's do it.
No, I swear it's like the range is supposed to pick up around the As soon as you hit the turnaround.
EMT.
No, it's so you had cheated goats last semester, I guess.
It's gonna pick up.
They want me for my test.
It was not, it was tough.
You're trying to find the area graph.
Y minus y will like toes. Yeah. X minus X.
Area graph is this. That's from
You have to go and take the ACT. It doesn't have to
You
be.
to integrate this.
You can just
This would
roll
be
this
for
That's what I
like
did.
everything
When I got
for
the student score, I was like, this score is
That's not gonna be
terrible.
the case.
Because I have it slide. So I'm just gonna
These
go
two are basically the same thing. This x-axis
taking it
is
one more
1.
time. My super score was
So you need to play the 0 or y here. All the true. And then all the negative 2. And then that does your back. You should get a numerical 0.
This is a
Nice math.
One down,
Dude, there's no way that's happening. The last one is from 1 to
I think for the people who took it better in my class, that took that one test, the most recent.
Oh. For like all the years I was there. I never oh, this is
I wonder
That's the why. That's the why.
That's our next value. The original question to go why. Wait, the new equation slope, the final equation. Come on, Phil, let's plug in. Actually, not bad. Some things.
For some reason, that YouTube.
So that's your y value.
Because it's the slope.
So,
How is that not?
this is our y equation, because this is our equation.
Oh, that is our
We plug 2 in, and that gives us our and then they take the derivative of that, and that gives us our slope. That's, and then he does this, which is 1. So then y minus 5 halves equals 1 times x minus 1.
Does it matter what anything, or will like,
You're such a good one.
or sometimes one of them like not work?
What? That's a good one.
If u is, are you saying u is x?
Yeah, like,
Dylan.
how do I figure out which one?
Dylan, rate my writer.
Do it.
If you call, okay, then d would be 1 dx. And you would need to replace all of that with this. 1 dx is nowhere near the rest of that. If you call this stuff u, then you take the derivative of it, du would be 4/3 next to the 1/3, which is almost
And then afterwards, what else do you look at?
yeah, sometimes you don't know.
And then it's the one. And then it's not just the other.
You have anything on it?
Yeah, I got a haircut, so I can't do that. I got that's a lot. I got I've been on the movie crowd.
He's also
Velocity sign tells you it's going right or left. Acceleration sign tells you it's going quicker to the right or quicker to the left. And the same is going faster in that direction. So basically, I would assign velocity and acceleration of 1, velocity and acceleration of 2. Put the inverse signs for speed up, and the signs for slowing down. And I would try to write
What?
Oh, it's
Not like
I was guaranteed a living wage. I would be going to like
I like having food.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We'll see if I can.
And if I am an engineer, I'll just work 9 to 5 and do my own thing the other hours. If I think I would honestly also
Then I got 1/4 x squared.
I didn't know. What is it? Oh, just kidding, no, you don't. You should do. No, it just means that. I think it's actually third. They do two. Well, find the area. Find the area.
You had a good,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I have no
Oh,
idea.
wait, what's the last name? That took me a while ago. That's okay.
Well, we gotta find out eventually.
We can find out eventually. Did we do each other? We just study each other.
I don't like to get
Meetings like
If it's above the x-axis, then you would only. Yeah, then you don't.
Find out the second derivative. You know what we can do?
Is he gonna have that first? So if I only, it's only at one, right? Because the one that is.
That's right. We need to concave up and concave down. And that concave concave down.
All right, guys, it's almost that time.
Oh, yeah.
Mark, what you were asking about some of them not being possible.